And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
We're about to start the next set. If I may have your attention, please, for a minute, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Hobe Kytr.
Kytr. Oh, Kytr.
Hobe Kytr. And I'll be in trouble. Okay. Now, retired, Hobe ran a fisheries office at the Salmon for Now?
Salmon for All.
Salmon for All. Salmon for All for the last 14 years of his career. This is his 27th year at FisherPoets Gathering. Please welcome Hobe.
It will probably take a little bit to dial the sound in. And if we could have your the cooperation of people in the room, because I know that I was sitting halfway back in the room when Abigail was reading. I couldn't hear what she was saying at all because there was too much noise going on. Okay, so we're going to start off with a song about Shanghaiing in old Astoria. And if you were in an establishment long about here in old Astoria, you were in danger of being slid through a hatch in the floor and rowed out to a ship and being sold as an able-bodied sailor, excuse me. My name is all my boys, I'm up to a T, but I tell you of some troubles that happened under me. Oh, I went down to Astor Street to taste a little sin, and they took myself a little nap after meeting Mickey Finn. They picked me up and put me out, and down the chute I went. I landed in a little boat just as carefree as cement. The crimpy rowed me to the ship and gathered up his speed, and that is how the sailor's life was given unto me. Fiddly-dum-pa-diddly-diddly-dee, lumpa-dee-pa-die-do, dum-ba-diddly-dee-pa-diddly-dum-ba-diddly-die, fiddly-dum-pa-diddly-diddly-dee, lumpa-dee-pa-die-do, dum-ba-diddly-dee-pa-diddly-dum-ba-diddly-die. I was just a logger boy a-comin' into town to celebrate the 4th, me boys, and drink and riding down. I must have had a dozen of the little limeys rum, and never did I taste that it was laced with opium. And when at last I did wake up to standing across the bar, I ran to jump from off the ship, but alas, it was too far. I bid along, I said farewell, a tear came to me eye. I spent the next 7 years on the trade route to Shanghai. Fiddly-dum-pa-diddly-diddly-dee, lumpa-dee-pa-die-do, dum-ba-diddly-dee-pa-diddly-dum-ba-diddly-die, fiddly-dum-pa-diddly-diddly-dee, lumpa-dee-pa-die-do, dum-ba-diddly-dee-pa-diddly-dum-ba-diddly-die. Now I'm back to Oregon, but you see I've lost my leg, so I'm going back to where I know that I won't have to beg. I'll find myself a hole in the floor, call Astor, greet me home, and I'll sell the Shanghai World Tour to lads who'd like to roam. Fiddly-dum-pa-diddly-diddly-dee, lumpa-dee-pa-die-do, dum-ba-diddly-dee-pa-diddly-dum-ba-diddly-die, fiddly-dum-pa-diddly-diddly-dee, lumpa-dee-pa-die-do, dum-ba-diddly-dee-pa-diddly-dum-ba-diddly-die. Well, this next one comes from a conversation overheard in a watering hole south of here along the Oregon coast. A young fisherman and his wife were having a discussion, and he was saying, "Gee, honey, you know, wouldn't it be nice if I could come home every night like other people do, live like normal people?" And she was saying, "No, sweetheart, I like it the way it is, because when you're gone, you're gone, but when you're home, you're all mine." Rolling out along the Sound and past the Lion's Gate, we're headed north towards Kodiak, up through the Inside Strait. We'll fish the We'll fish the Gulf. Sorry, it broke my concentration. We'll fish the Gulf for halibut till our holds are full, and then it's turnabout into the south for Oregon again. This kind of life requires a man with the ocean in his brain, and the will to face an open sea under driving sheets of rain. Sometimes a man must leave his wife for 90 days and more, and who's to say what's going on with those who stay ashore? It's not the 25-foot waves nor the wind which get to me, for I was born along the strand, just raised up on the sea. It's when we're just a few days out and I'm wondering how she's been, that I want to turn this old tub around for Oregon again. Now lest you folks begin to think that I'm a worried man, I get along and I lead my life and I do the best that I can. But if by chance you happen to make a visit to my home, you just tell the lady who's living there I'm out here all alone. You just tell the lady who's living there I'm out here all alone. Okay, this next one is about a beautiful run of early summer salmon that we used to have that came to the Columbia River every year, long about the beginning of June. There was pumpkin seed-shaped fish that could get up to 100 pounds. And they swam all the way up the Columbia and over the rapids and over the falls to spawn way up in British Columbia above the Arrow Lakes in the upper Columbia. And they needed that reserve of fat when they got here to make it that far. And the canneries marketed them as Royal Chinook. The fishermen down here in the lower river called them the June hogs because that's when they came in. And the lower river fishermen knew when they were about to come because swarms of salmon flies would emerge out of the salt marshes over where Warrenton is now. And those big fish would come in and they would mill around for a couple of weeks eating those salmon flies to fatten up before they made their run up the river. And when Grand Coulee Dam was put in, blocking the upper Columbia forever because of lack of fish passage, those June hogs, of course, were doomed to disappear. But when the June hogs disappeared, so did the salmon flies. Can you explain that to me? They'd been here since the Ice Age ran down the great Missoula flood. Then they built the Grand Coulee Dam, now the June hog's gone for good. The June hogs spawned above the Arrow Lakes in the Selkirk Mountain Lee. For 2 whole years is their time to take before they journeyed out to sea. When the mammoth roamed the grassy plain in the early Holocene, mighty fish from this river range now are no more to be seen. After 5 years feeding on the Arctic ground, the June hogs did return. Deep in the body, fat and round, for the spawning grounds it yearned. Just before the June hogs came back, a salmon fly did swarm. What final nutrients they lacked, the salmon fly did form. When the mammoth roamed the grassy plain in the early Holocene, mighty fish from this river range now they're no more to be seen. By the time they reached the Kettle Falls, they were down to slim and trim. If they reached the June, if they reached the spawning grounds at all, they were downright gaunt and lean. When the June hogs finally saw their last, so did the salmon fly. Though it's long ago and in the past, please explain the reason why. When the mammoth roamed the grassy plain in the early Holocene, mighty fish from this river range now are no more to be seen. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
The
Hobe.
only way
That
you
was
can get a
great.
chair up here is if you bring it from where you were sitting.
That's right.
Okay, before I introduce the next performer, I'm going to ask John Oakes, who should be here somewhere, to bring his biography up, or who knows what I'm going to say when I introduce him. Okay, now our next performer, thank you very much, Hobe. What? You're kidding. We're up all the way, and I'm eating the speaker. My lips are touching it. Can you hear me in the back? My mother always told me to quiet down. Okay, the heck with what she said. I need to be noisier, and you need to be quieter, maybe? Anyway, I am introducing Colin Kaferle. He's in Portland by way of Orcas Island in Washington, in case you don't know. He has fished for Dungeness crab on the FV Pinky Bee in Puget Sound, Salish Sea, and he's now a full-time gardener and sometimes crabber. I'm not sure how you combine crabbing and gardening, but that's okay. Colin, come on up.
I would take the center, and we'll set it up for you.
All right, this is a big room. Can you guys hear me? So I'm gonna start off with a poem that's a tribute to a car. My best friend and captain and his family traveled down from the San Juan Islands to Portland to buy a used car, and while they were in Portland, the car that they drove down in got stolen, which I don't think there's anyone who's lived in Portland for an appreciable amount of time that hasn't had their car stolen. If you haven't, you're really lucky. So just word to the wise: be careful when you drive to Portland. Better to take the bus or hitchhike. But that car was integral to our crabbing operation, and this poem is called "Crab Car's Last Ride." The crab car found its way to Medford through no fault of its own. Most likely methamphetamines on the gas pedal got it there. It was an unlikely place, the high desert of southern Oregon, for that saline rig to end up. Personally, I think it would have preferred to join the unlicensed fleet of make-do rides on Waldron Island, or been left to sink into the ground and grow moss at the edge of a green field. At the very least, abandoned with a view of the incoming tide. No one can say she didn't do all that was asked of her, hauling cans of crab, bait, and a sleeping toddler wherever need be, lent to brave and desperate friends, a RAV4 for the ages, queen of the North Ditch, dream mother at the break of day. Some of us will miss you. There was a manual transmission, and you actually had to use two hands to change gears. It was terrifying. You had to let go of the wheel. We still loved it. This one's called Prune Alley Crab Stand. We sell crab out the back of my pickup on Sundays and holidays. Sometimes we sell because the weather is nice, or we just want some money. I set up the scale on the tailgate to weigh the ones that people have pointed out and wrap them up in paper bags I buy from the grocery store. The regulars bring buckets or waxed boxes. Mrs. Joplin stops and gives us cash, but refuses our crab. She thinks we're bums and leaves her card in case we need help signing up for benefits. She's good at that sort of thing. But with 2 cans of crab, a cup of coffee, and a few of my friends hanging around, I see no need for charity. So this poem has very little to do with fishing other than the fact that it was inspired by my trip from Portland to last year's FisherPoets Gathering. And some might remember and might have experienced the winter storm we had in the Willamette Valley in Western Oregon and Southwest Washington. And so it was kind of dicey, and I wasn't sure exactly what the trip out here was going to be like, but I made it from Portland, and yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was like shimmering white light snow. It was great. But I have to explain that for those of you who don't know, so this poem is called Bikini Barista Again, and for those who don't know, a bikini barista is a barista who sells coffee out of a espresso shack, but they're only wearing their bathing suit. It's a thing. So this is called Bikini Barista Again, and I should also point out that there is just a bikini barista poem before this one, but that has nothing to do with fishing. This has almost nothing to do with fishing, but. Yes, I went back to see the bikini barista. Weather and circumstance drove me there. Tires chained, bed full of sand. The 93 pickup, a Japanese-made prayer crawling 100 miles towards the coast. If I was to die on that road, a plastic bouquet laid in the ditch, would not a cup of coffee ease my passage to whatever lay beyond those white lines? So when I paid the $9 plus tip, I felt my luck had changed and made a run along the great river to the gathering place near its mouth. This is a poem that I wrote. It was inspired by a friendship I made through Fisher Poets, and probably a lot of people here know, or at least know the name Clem Stark. Clem couldn't be here this weekend with us, but this poem is dedicated to him. This poem's called New Friend. I made a new friend who lives outside of town. He is a widower, and I, a man who is not yet married. We sit at his kitchen table in an old house on a hillside and talk. We've both been on boats and learned to work with wood, though I have yet to tamp ballast for the railroad or read the Chinese masters. So we laugh, eat coffee cake, and forget, for a while, that we are alone. So I used to live on Orcas Island in the Salmon Islands of the Salish Sea. I now live in Portland, and I don't get out to the ocean very often, but I do have some spots by the Willamette and Columbia rivers that I like to go and visit, and I have a sit spot in particular I like to go to and daydream and look far from, and this is a poem about that spot. It's called The Overlook. There's a bluff above the river that I visit when I want to become unstuck. I watch the freight trains and container ships that pass, imagining I can catch a ride, maybe along the coast, down to San Francisco. My brother lives there, or out to open water and on towards Kolkata, the city of joy. I let my head create a kind of smoke, one that wraps around memory, smolders on reminder. It pushes into the quiet places so that you could do your job or sleep through the night. Those places I have been before, they are the ones that stir me from my bench at present, cause me to squint, to reckon with the glare of the water. Those are the ones I wish to return to with a stronger heart, with the residue of so many days lived in between. But look, it's nearly spring, and to leave now would mean missing the daffodils that bloom on the edge of the hill underneath the cottonwood trees. It's another river poem. This one's called Crossing the St. John's Bridge. And for those of you who don't know, the St. John's Bridge is a suspension bridge, a beautiful suspension bridge, really tall suspension bridge that crosses the Willamette before its confluence with the Columbia. Crossing the St. John's Bridge the day after Thanksgiving in a cold mist, I sidestep an old bouquet of flowers, now brown and melting, left for someone who leapt, and hug the railing. It was from here that the climbers rappelled to block the icebreaker Fennica on its way to Shell oil leases in the Chukchi Sea. And it is from here that I wonder about the agreements we make with ourselves to achieve peace. One more? Great. So just to preface this one a little bit, I am now a full-time gardener at the Portland Japanese Garden. Yep. So you guys know it. And I actually take time off so that I can go crab fishing for free. So I spent, I think, 4 days on a commercial crab boat this season. But I had the honor and privilege of being a guest at Oregon State Prison down in Salem, where they have built a Japanese-inspired healing garden. And for those of you who don't know, Oregon State Prison is where Oregon's death row was until recently, and where the death chamber was until they dismantled it. And it's just an amazing, amazing garden that the adults in custody and various volunteers and people in the landscape industry and designers have built there. And it's a testament to what nature can do and can do in a place like a prison or for people that are incarcerated. So this is inspired by that. And it's not related to fishing, but I often don't get to speak in front of a crowd, and I think this is an important thing. It starts with a quote. "The compass can go wrong. The stars, never." Tongan navigator. Once free island people, now held behind 25-foot walls at Oregon State Prison. And Rudy, there since the age of 18, sentenced to die until the governor's commutation in 22, explaining Buddhist philosophy, quoting Christian scripture, drawing parallels, and glowing under early March rain. Their garden, the first of its kind, pines and a stone lantern, bridge over the creek that feeds the koi pond where large men learn flower arrangement, call the fish by name. The yard, a reminder, as are the many who cross it, make calls on payphones, huddle in groups. 3 gates and 3 checkpoints, rifles, billy clubs, and razor wire, a supermax temple growing something precious in view of the guard tower. Thank you.
Next, thank you, Colin, very much. And next, I also would like to compliment this audience. You're doing a really nice job. When I've spoken here or presented here before, it's been a very noisy audience. So I just want to say thank you for being on the quiet side. Next, I want to introduce Duncan Berry, who probably needs no introduction. He gives incredible workshops, and he's from Salmon River Watershed, the coastal one of Cascade Head. And his connection to commercial fishing in its community, well, I took his workshop yesterday, and that made it pretty obvious. Salmon trawler out of Warrenton in the 60s and 70s, and the Columbia River Bar tried its best to kill him. Thank you for not letting it. But failed. Oh, the bar failed. So he could be here to read to you tonight. Welcome to Duncan.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to thank our hosts, the Wet Dog, oh, wait a minute, the Astoria Brewing Company. Thank you, crew. Also, the only thing that's more nerve-wracking than getting up here and reading poetry to, at the coast, if you read poetry, usually 3 to 5 people show up. So this is a little bit larger crowd. So the only thing more nerve-wracking is actually doing the emceeing, which I did last night. So I just wanted to thank these two hosts down here, Brad Warren and Abigail Calkin, for guiding us tonight. Yeah, thank you both. So I want to get everybody's blood pumping a little bit here, and you all have, well, most of you have beer mugs, so please use them as percussive devices for a little shanty here. Salmon really dominate a conversation in this town, but there's another incredible crop that comes across a lot of docks here, and that is Metacarcinus magister. Anybody know who that is? Dungeness crab sound more familiar? Yeah. So this is a ballad called The Ballad of Dungy Boy, and it's a 6-million-year-old revenge story. And see if you can figure out what the plot is after we get into it a little bit. But I do need your help on the chorus. So, well, Metacarcinus magister is the samurai of the sea, armored up with 10 strong legs and just as proud as he can be. Well, Mr. Dungy Boy, you might have finally met your match, for there's a big old 8-legged octopus wants to wolf you down his hatch. He's gonna wolf you down his hatch. Yeah. Well, we're working a line of pots along the 20-fathom line, searching for our double boys and that sodium vapor shine. Well, God has a sense of humor, that much is crystal clear. Why else would he make crabs fill out at the worst time of the year? Well, lines are spinning in the black pots, swaying to and fro, sorting out 20 more crusty boys, and down the chute they go. Well, Metacarcinus magister is the samurai of the sea, armored up with 10 strong legs and just as mean as he can be. Well, Mr. Dungy Boy, you might have finally met your match, for there's a big old hangry octopus gonna wolf you down his hatch. Well, swells are coming in high as a house, wind screaming in our ears, when suddenly the pots come up empty, feeding the worst of our fears. Someone's beat us to the punch, boys, taking no prisoners and leaving no trace. It's one of them 8-leggeds below with a big old smile on his face. 3 empty pots later, he comes, our bright red cephalopod Jinx. He lets out one hell of a crabby belch, and he looks me straight in the eye and winks. He looks me straight in the eye and he winks. Well, word up on the street about you, Octo. Word of your Squidward, Tentacool, and Octoraptor fame, and humans in their boats playing the El Pulpo Apocalypus Kraken game. Because sticks and stones, they can't break your bones, Psycho Mantis, Squicken, Octobro, Sir Crabdopus, Flumpy Dumpster. No. Cause Mr. Dungy Boy, you finally met your match. There's a big old 8-legged octopus, he just wolfed you down his hatch. He went and wolfed you down his hatch. Yeah. Thank you. Sometimes I have to do that to myself just to get my blood pumping. Poetry can be a little serious at times. But to be serious for a moment, a lot of that crab that was coming from that particular revenge story, which is really true. Octopus have an amazing ability to head into a pot, rid it of all its crab, do a circle, find the next pot, and then he's got his line or she's got his line, and they take that line and they can empty a lot of pots. So those crab were coming into Ilwaco. Let's just imagine that for a minute. And that this city has experienced a lot of amazing events over the years, and some of those have been fires. There's been numerous ones, and they've almost burned this town to the ground. Well, one just happened January 22nd of this year at Ilwaco Landing. And it was a big challenge to the crab fleet. And so I just wrote a piece to talk about that a little bit called Burn, Baby, Burn. Also, Fisher Poets should be reflecting what's happening now, not just many, many years ago. So this is an attempt to do that. Well, my teachers always said, run towards your troubles. And I always cocked my head and wondered at this bit of advice. Problems usually hurt or stress me out, so mostly I just can't wait till they go away. But he would say, just think for a minute of all growing you have done in your life. How much of that came from the good times? And how many came from the hard times? The blade of you sharpened on something tricky and unexpected, not the way you planned for it to go, demanding that you adapt and change course and become a different you. January 22nd, I got the text on my phone, containing the tiny picture of the fire, my eyes reflecting crimson flowers of flame, gray-black clouds of billowing smoke. That's Ilwaco Landing, is all it said. Burn, baby, burn. It was my friend Kip writing me, my partner of many years, creating the first B Corp seafood company in the world. We had met many problems and grown together. And I'd been one chapter in the history of that creosote piling landing, helping to run it for almost a decade under the banner of fish people. Crab and tuna, black cod and halibut, millions and millions of pounds of these beautiful sea creatures streaming through that portal and into the waiting mouths of humans. And from the very beginning, Mike Shirley, the heart and soul of that landing. Anybody know Mike in this room? Mike Shirley, yeah. So Mike Shirley was the heart and soul of that landing and wanted to do the fishing business differently, redefining the relationship with our captains, without whom we would be nothing. In exchange for their life risk and skills on the water, the team offloaded quickly, had warm meals ready, a washer and a dryer. Each small act a form of honoring the last of the hunter-gatherers. And rough as it all was, it worked. And now this, burn, baby, burn. The Leviathan ice machine, 4,000 crab pots, weigh scales and hoists, 100-year-old timbers with memories of tides and totes, all arching into the sky, airborne. Talk about a problem. Burn, baby, burn. We are defined by our response to what happens to us. And Lord, what a response this time round. From GoFundMes to semis loaded with replacement pots, food cooked with love, and once again Mike Shirley into the breach, this time with the Bornstein family. Everyone suspending the gossip and competition and the smallness for something bigger. Common unity, born of community. An outpouring that was always there waiting for a big problem to show how deep and raw and lasting the connection really is between fisherfolk. Running towards the problem and wrestling it to the ground with a giant bear hug and love of the sea and of boats and gear and shining fish, of a living made on salty waters in this short moment of a life we've all been given here on this wild edge of a continent. And no one that went through the intensity of that fire will ever forget how brightly the light of salty brotherhood and sisterhood blazed in that moment. How flawed and yet beautiful we humans are. Burn, baby, burn. Yeah, amazing, really, to see the response to that hardship. Especially, what was it, 3 or 4 days before an opener, so it was not, the timing was a little nasty, I think, for a lot of crabbers. So moving quickly on, this one's just more about how we're all the minions and subjects of the weather, right? This is called playing rough. So well behaved during unbroken streams of blue days that I clean forgot you could play so rough. Yeah, on the last hot day of October, your light was ready to spill over the edge into darkness, the thin gray horizon hiding winter just out of sight. And then you came in swinging 6 straight days of house-rocking punches, 10 inches of life-giving liquid falling in the span of one morning's cup of coffee to the next, the river gorged and pushed out of its banks by the advancing tide. Sometimes you just don't know when to quit. And as I sit writing this, the thud of the surf calls me to walk outside, drawn by the pull of you and your knee-high foam and broken trees and the rearing, flagrant, creaming ladder of waves that you make from 6,000 miles of sea and the thin membrane of land under my feet. And in all of this you say, it's easy to walk in the high meadows of summer when the light is low in the west and the world holds still. But to really know me, you say, I want you here, in this, humbled by cold, salt-rimmed eyes staring into the west at me, dressed in gray, coming at you, playing rough. Yeah. So, looks like we're about 10 minutes in, is that right? 11? Yeah? Okay. And we've...
You got a short one?
Yeah, we got 12 minutes or 15? 12. 15 total. Okay.
You're right about it.
I'll do one more. How's that? This is dedicated to a creature of the sea that's here in this room with me. It's been with me for 50 years since I was a lad. And so this is dedicated to my wife, Melanie. It's called Selkie. Here, like so many wild shadow coasts of the north where chill waters are bounded by ancient rock, is the place where the legend of the Selkie was born. Of the beautiful dark-eyed feminine seal creature who frequents these shorelines, head just above the surface, eyes darting, quietly watching men and women come and go upon the sea. And once in a lifetime, one of these kind is so drawn to a landsman that she sheds her skin, taking the form of a woman, emerging naked and beautiful and dark as the sea itself. And this is a legend I know to be true, for she has found me, this true life Selkie, watching me as I left each day to go out on the broad back of the sea, she who buried her skin after coming ashore, standing upright at my side, and all these many years left it there hidden high above the tide line. Loving her landsman, but never far from the roaring rumble of surf, salt still laced in her hair like some crystalline memory. She who goes to the sea to breathe, she who is more of the water than the land, she who is playful and flexible and curious and knowing, she is an embodiment of this wild northern sea itself, running deep, pierced by light and seductive, in the same way that the sea draws us to board our ships for that liquid planet within a planet where we feel more at home than on land itself. And this is how my Selkie is for me, different and mysterious, like liquid, both gentle and strong. I feel more at home in the sanctuary of her than anywhere else in this world. And I strive to be worthy of her and of her love, knowing that the fluid freedom and comfort of her beloved sea is always calling her, me striving to match this salty sisterhood with the simple and absolute love of a landsman who has been gifted this dark-haired and wild Selkie by the sea.
Thank you, Duncan. That was incredible. And we will now take a 10-minute short break and come back.
May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. The sun
We're here at the Fisher Poets Gathering today, and I'm talking with Britt, who's a second-time attendee. Britt, where'd you come in from for the gathering?
I'm from Woodburn, Oregon.
How many times have you come for the Fisher Poets Gathering?
This is my second year attending.
So you like it, so you thought it was worth a repeat performance. Do you see making this an annual event?
Definitely, yeah. Love the community here and the small town event kind of thing. It's very cool.
So what was your favorite part so far?
Not Able Brewing Company. Astoria Brewing Company. They put on a really good show last night, and I think I'll be back there today for round 2 of some storytelling.
Super, Britt. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.